And then there's 3 buildings?
No, it's one building,
One building, three
units. Each unit is 1,100 square feet, 2 bed, 2 bath with a little bit of office space.
So why, I guess, can you talk to me a little bit more about the rationality of doing that versus just doing a 3-bedroom house and selling it to a family?
Well, it's all about together and separate. So if you bought, say, a big single family home with your grandma and your adult child, you guys would be sharing all the common area spaces, you'd be bumping into each other in the kitchen, you'd be arguing over the remote, somebody's leaving their chicken in the refrigerator too long, things like that. But our ability to separate each unit out gives each generation the ability to feel like they're living with their family, but not with their
I guess my point is
Yeah.
you could design the same project, just keep it as a single parcel and just try to find a family.
Well, for us, we have 2 Gen
Yeah.
X's here, and we have boomers that we are supporting, and then we have millennial children that we're supporting. Our millennial children cannot afford a home. And so we're able to help them by leaning in a little bit more on the equity. Maybe they pay, instead of 1/3, they pay a little bit less. And then we're able to, through this condo strategy, really be able to give them the ability to do the equity.
Yeah, it seems like you could do a similar thing through just a family trust and a property sale.
Certainly.
Which might be a little cheaper because it's
Yep.
a little less complicated.
One of the issues, I'll speak to that really quick too, is also that this particular parcel, it's a really creative way to maximize the use of an infill lot. This particular lot has a large apartment complex on the left and another small multifamily on the right. So we've learned there have been other developers.
Really
who
good
have-
ones, really
Right.
great ones.
Who may just be on this who were not interested in this particular site due to that fact. Like, how can I market, why would this be interesting to a single family, or someone who is interested in purchasing a single family with such a large rental community?
There's not a market study that supports this particular format. It's really more anecdotal, right? And I have read a lot about other kinds of approaches to co-housing to tackle the
Yep.
cost of purchase. And so are you open to that? And is there a fair housing issue if you try to pick the buyers in that way?
That was my point. Is keeping
Yeah,
it too.
I don't think we plan to pick the buyers. We plan to let our realtor market, but we think the marketing of this as a co-living space is really, really important because of those earlier demographics. What we've been seeing is even stories on GMA where you've got collectives of, and we've got 2 of them, we've got 3 of them actually, who might get together with their girlfriends, get together with their friends,
And that's why I was
and then
suggesting
do
maybe
it.
your market would be wider.
It's
if you're
definitely
more
that.
open to that
It's definitely Mm-hmm.
than the intergenerational piece. And you might have a way to tackle what I'm afraid might be a fair housing issue.
Yep, and I'm sorry that wasn't clear, but it's a collective, so it could be multi-generational, or it could be these friends getting together and doing it.
I mean, our preference would always be to sell all 3 units together. To your point, it would be a fair housing issue to say, no, you can't come in
Right.
and buy one of these
Right.
units.
Right.
But that's why they're separate, they're condoed out. So if somebody came in and wanted to buy one of the units, they could. If we were struggling to sell them, we could sell them one at a time. But to Michael's point also, and I think, Brian, you raised this as well, at that price point, why wouldn't you go get a much larger property?
And finally, the pre-sale requirements, most financing is going to require pre-sale, right? So how do you tackle that if you try to sell 3 units all at once in one transaction?
Yep, and we've heard that that's definitely, and today they even spoke about that, so we're gonna be working that through as well. We're actually, part of our friend group here is realtors, and so we're gonna talk with them about how would you really market this, when would you market it, and then we'll need to work that into our timeline.
I have 2 quick questions for clarification. Number 1 is, have you guys, I think on the financing side, you guys talked about finding a lender that's like 18 months or the interest free. Have you guys had any preliminary conversations with anybody on like they'll be open to that, or is that like, hey, this is like this assumption and working backwards from that way?
It's our assumption we're working backwards.
Okay. And then can you explain a little bit more about like the HOA structure you mentioned at the end? So like what is the case scenario if like you sell one unit but then another random person comes in but they want to be the HOA lead or whatever. But can you talk a little bit about the structure and how you kind of refine that a little bit?
Yeah, so it's going to be a condo owners association. The nice part is that it's 3 units, so nobody can really be the ringleader. There's always going to be a deciding vote. Obviously, the condo owners association is going to be in charge of collecting assessments from each of the unit owners, and those assessments are going to go towards maintenance of the common areas and payment of the real estate taxes. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Actually, I like this format. I live in Mount Auburn in a 6-unit. It's basically what you described, just side by side. And I think it works well, and like it's a great transitional product, like you described. And I think really selling like your marketing strategy, I think would be really important. And I think you did do a good job with touching on everything that it's really proximate to. So I think there is precedent for that, although it is more complex. I think there's better like longevity and making sure you're describing it as opportunities for, intergenerational or just 3 individuals interested in this neighborhood.
Server?
Your sale price of 410 appears to be a little bit on the aggressive side for a 2-bedroom, 1,100 square feet, right? So I would encourage you to take a harder look at the new construction comps in Evanston.
Okay.
Because I'll just share with you, I built 2 houses last year.
Did you?
Those are 1,400 square feet and under $400,000. So take a harder look at the sale price and the comps.
It is an aggressive sale price. I think our justification is the premium product and the ability to live collectively, which is not offered in the traditional single-family
That's a
product.
great point.
I think just, and I do more market rate side nowadays, but I think like at that price point too is like, yes, what you're saying is true about intergenerational living, but I think if there is a family who will spend like 1.2 on this product, there needs to be a differentiating factor of why I'm not going to go get a $500,000 house and buy a $500,000 cottage home or something, like to give the extra space. So something like whether it's in the marketing, whether it's like a finished level, whether it's off street park, whatever it is like why would I do this and not in style attached or cottage home ADU type stuff.
And to your point, the biggest thing that at least we all talked about was the separate but together. And the only reason is because in a single family home, there's so much potential for those generations or those friends to just have some kind of argument. But we totally agree with you.
It's
And
just a
the
big
opportunity, and the opportunity for each unit owner to be building equity. Where if you bought a $500,000 home and then a $500,000 cottage, whoever's on that mortgage and on that note, they're building the equity. But when we have the 3 units, you're getting equity at each level.
Yeah, and then I think if that is the main point, I would like to see, knowing that your sale price is already starting pretty high of market, showing how that equity is going to accumulate through appreciation. Like if these were $100,000 and you could show pretty steady appreciation because it's low end market, then having that data point might help a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I like the location a lot. I think it's a really cool idea, but I think like from other stuff I've seen about co-living, like it almost seems like it's kind of a weird in between like a high end versus like because co-living a lot of times is like way cheaper, and like I'm curious, like did you guys think of trying to? I know it's RMX, so it's difficult, but like trying to figure out ways to get more units on the site so it's like an actual like all in, because there's no other shared space besides the backyard, right? There's no like there's no like communal living space, because a lot of the co-living there's like at least one shared kitchen or like a shared living
everyone
space.
would have their own kitchen, so it's the common areas are outside and then the carport.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'd say like maybe like I get what you're doing, but like with it being so expensive, like really leaning into just being like these are just condos, like these are just condos in co-location. and leave it at that, because it's hard if it's like co-living, like you would expect like a different price for
Yeah,
that.
I think we're
and, like,
looking
different
at
amenities.
a particular demographic because
Yeah.
right now, if this was eligible, I have 2 girlfriends who would buy this, including me,
Yeah.
right? I also have friends I could buy this with. I could buy it with 2 of my sisters. So
Yeah.
I think that we are looking for a particular market in the middle. And if we wanted something that was more, hey, let's share a kitchen. I don't know if 4-year-olds who are dating want to share a kitchen.
Right.
Right? So like right, and I don't necessarily want to have a huge house responsibility, but I would like the idea of having my best friend and someone I met in grammar school having a whole building, right? If we think that's the market target demographic that we're looking for, along with intergenerational.
If I may, actually, just another anecdote is my neighbors, my longtime neighbors, and I, and the neighbor's sister had long ago talked about doing this as we aged.
There you
That's
go.
what I want to do.
So that's another.
Kick your kids out, and then you got your empty nesters. But to you guys' point, I think what we're thinking about doing is making sure that we've got a couple of realtors to do some surveys against, so that we can make sure that we sort of take this question of, oh, do people want this out of there? So at least we'll get some market data. So I think
And
that's
then
what
you
we're
get a
coming.
pulse on like what amenities that you need to put in what different finishes, and I think that would be helpful. And I think I saw like a long lease up timeline, and I think that's helpful that you guys make that in front of.
12 months.
12 years.
Yeah.
If this thing will sell.
12-month sales period.
Yeah, that's good.
It's really driving marketing. And then we built in a 6% commission to a realtor to help us achieve that sale.
I think it's a, kind of really just live in community concept. We see, mentioned as people age, they need to downsize.
Let's put
a
that
lot of
video.
times.
Let's put that
And
video
so,
of GMA on it too.
There's smaller units. There's 1,100 square feet as opposed to a $500,000 home is going to be huge in theory, and as you age, you can't maintain that property. Or
You
there's
don't want
cost-
to.
You don't, and so this is an opportunity to have premium product that is still able to stay in perhaps the neighborhood you grew up in your whole life, but while also, much easier to maintain and live in that space with people that hopefully you have a strong relationship with.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then also add Michael's slide about the $300,000.